Hurro. This is Max Moore with another story, kind of, from Robert Whiting. Today we're going to talk about his latest book, which is Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, the Outsiders Who Shaped Modern Japan. It's not going to be my book review, though. It's going to be by a good friend of ours, Rionne Fujiwara, McAvoy. So, before we get started, let's take a look at who is the author of this book review. And here we have Rionne Fujiwara McAvoy. This is his Substack. So if you go to substack.com /Rionne, which is RIONNE, I'll put the link down in the description below. You can take a look at his Substack. He has a lot of articles there, and I think you're going to enjoy them. He's an interesting kind of guy. He's an Australian, and he comes from both line of filmmakers and also pro wrestling. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you take a look here, you're going to see his latest documentary. It won an award, 17 of them, I guess. And it's going to be playing in Tokyo from November 9th to November 15th. It's called The Ones Left Behind, The Plight of Single Mothers in Japan. And so I'll also put links for that in the description below. And like I said, he's also a pro wrestler. So what does that mean? Well, it means you get a body like this. This is a really recent appearance he did at the Korakuen the other day. And how did we meet? Well, we met through Robert Whiting. So this is us. I think it was back in March. There on the left, you'll see Rionne, looking big and chipper there. There's Robert Whiting, third from the right. And there's me, Max Moore, right in the center. I'm not going to talk about the guy on the right because he scares the shit out of me. As you should be. Anyways, let's get started with the book review. It's this book review. Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, the Outsiders Who Shaped Modern Japan by Robert Whiting. Now, Rionne wrote this about a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. So I'm kind of behind in keeping up with my reviews. But let's get started. Okay. So what do we have here? Well, this is a topic. What if the rise of modern Japan wasn't just shaped by its politicians, economists, and business leaders, but also by a motley crew of gamblers, criminals, dreamers, and spies? What if the people who made the biggest impact on Japan's post-war transformation weren't the heroes of history books, but the outsiders who operated in the shadows? Robert Whiting's Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, Outsiders Who Shaped Modern Japan, takes you on a journey into the lives of these very figures, the risk-takers and the rule-breakers, who, through their daring and often illegal moves, changed the face of this country forever. Now, Whiting's previous works, like Tokyo Underworld and You Gotta Have Wa, have explored both the criminal underbelly and Japan's love for baseball. And in his latest work, Whiting brings us into the gritty, complex world of people who never quite fit into Japan's rigid society, but still manage to leave their mark. It navigates through a rogues gallery of characters who defied the norm to alter the country's trajectory. And here we have a screenshot of Robert as he appears in Rionne's documentary, The Ones Left Behind, The Plight of Single Mothers in Japan. Now, the individuals in this book span a wide spectrum, from post-war Yakuza bosses and international spies to American hustlers and dreamers who saw Japan as a land of opportunity. Whiting masterfully draws out the connections between them, showing how their actions often alter the course of history in ways that went unnoticed by the general public. Although not a main character in the book, anytime I can read about Yoshio Kodama, whose life I've also written about in my Substack, Who is Yoshio Kodama?, is always fun. Whiting wrote more about Kodama in Tokyo Underworld, but he pops up again in this book. Kodama's story reads like a thriller, blending high-level political influence, deep ties to organized crime, and covert involvement with the CIA. Kodama was a fixer, a nationalist, and a man who understood the power of operating in the shadows. Exactly the type of character Whiting excels at profiling. And trust me, there are so many excellent stories in Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies that you'll come back to it over and over again to read. In fact, what I love most about Whiting's new book is that you can read the chapters randomly anytime you like and always come back and enjoy it again and again. Kodama's life, like many of the other characters in this book, perfectly encapsulates the book's central theme. That often, it's not the lawful or moral figures who shape a nation, but the outsiders, willing to take risks and bend the rules to win. Whiting's ability to turn history into an engrossing narrative is a true gift. His detailed research is balanced by a storytelling style that feels almost cinematic, making this book as thrilling as it is informative. The gamblers and fraudsters he writes about weren't just criminals. They were visionaries who saw Japan as a landscape of opportunities, often daring to make moves that the conventional power structures could never imagine. Similarly, the spies and dreamers he profiles saw Japan as a key battleground during the Cold War, and their covert actions shaped both Japanese and international policy. I was surprised to also read about a CIA agent who has the same last name as me, McAvoy, and I wrote about it on my Substack as well, too. Now, in Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, the outsiders who shaped modern Japan, Whiting also shows that it always wasn't men who played dubious roles in shaping post-war Japan. Now, what do we mean by that? Yes, got figures. Figures like Viscountess Suryo Tori with their scandalous affair with Charles Cadies, a senior figure in the U.S. occupation forces after World War II, had massive political influence. She proves that women, too, could wield power, and stir controversy behind the scenes. Cadies, a Harvard-educated lawyer, played a crucial role in drafting Japan's post-war constitution. Now, despite being married, he openly visited Viscountess Tori with her husband's knowledge and approval. That's right, folks. The Viscount was a cuck. Well, I would like to say he was a cuck, but he's a Viscount. Anyways, their relationship became a notable scandal, and the Viscount even seemed proud of it, hosting Cadies while maintaining his own extramarital affair. How about that? And so what you have there is Charles Cadies, a stellar GHQ figure, with his mistress, Viscountess Suryo Tori. Okay. Now, my hands-down favorite is this guy. My hands-down favorite story from the book is the Mooney story. After the Korean War, the United States government, seeking to contain communism in East Asia, had the CIA play a pivotal role in establishing the Korean Central Intelligence Agency, KCIA, in 1961, modeled after the CIA itself. The KCIA's purpose was to protect South Korea from communist influence, particularly from the North, while serving as a tool for broader U.S. geopolitical aims in the region. The KCIA quickly became intertwined with Sung Myung Moon's Unification Church, known worldwide as, quote, the Moonies. It's a religious group or cult with virulent anti-communist ideology. Brigadier General Kim Chong-pil, the KCIA's founder, embedded several agents within the church, recognizing its utility in combating communism. So there you see the Reverend Sung Myung Moon, the founder of the Unification Church, with his wife. I think what the cult does is they replace your family with theirs. So all the followers of the cult are instructed and made to refer to him as their true father and his wife, their true mother. It's a bit wacky. Anyways, with the CIA backing, the Unification Church expanded rapidly, aligning with pro-American political forces in both South Korea and Japan. The CIA provided initial seed money and contacts to support Moon's ventures in the United States, and the Unification Church's influence spread globally, particularly in the U.S., where it was involved in various political campaigns. Moon's organization was seen as a tool to influence U.S. foreign policy, and its alignment with right-wing politicians further solidified its ties with intelligence agencies. The church's anti-communist stance and the covert support from both the CIA and the KCIA helped it grow into a political force, using funds raised globally, primarily from Japan, to further its objectives. Now, hoo-ha. The intricate relationship between Japan's political elite, particularly former Prime Minister Nobusuke Kishi and his grandson, another former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, with the Moonies, is woven together brilliantly by Whiting. The church, heavily supported by the KCA and receiving financial backing from powerful Japanese ultra-nationalists like Kodama, gained influence within Japan's ruling Democratic Party, the LDP. Kishi's ties to the church allowed the LDP to benefit from donations, free labor, and political support. This alliance continued for decades, with Abe maintaining close ties to the church as well. Abe even sent congratulatory messages to the Unification Church events as late as 2021, continuing the family's connection with the organization and ultimately leading to his assassination in 2022. And now in this photo that you're looking at right now, yes, on the left is Prime Minister Abe's grandfather, Nobusuke Kishi. And on the right, yeah, that is Hideki Tojo. No introductions or explanation is required. Okay, so now, well, the assassin of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, he blamed the church for his family's financial ruin. His mother had donated vast sums to the church and drove the family into bankruptcy. And this personal connection, combined with the church's broader controversial practices in Japan, motivated the assassin to target Abe, believing that Abe's political support for the church was responsible for his family's downfall. And that is the photo of the assassin, Tetsuya Yamagami, just moments right after the shooting with his so-called homemade gun. Now, one of the things, just a little bit of clarification, the Yamagami, he was in college. I think he went to Rikyo University Engineering. And what happened was earlier, his grandfather had died and left behind the house, and maybe it was worth about $2 million. And his mother, in all her wisdom, donated all that money to the Unification Church, to the Moonies. And so he's in the middle, I don't know what year, freshman year or sophomore year of Rikyo University. It's in Kyoto, in engineering. So it's a good school. Well, he had to drop out. He couldn't afford to continue his studies. And so for years after that, he was working kind of menial jobs. He was like working as a delivery man for Hankyu and things like that. So, look, I'm not saying it's right, but you can understand where a lot of his resentment came from. Should have been directed at the church, and it would have been fine, I think, with me at least, if he had hit out at one of those Korean Moonies. That would have been fine. I don't see why he had to go after the prime minister. Anyways, let me continue. Now, for someone like me who has long been fascinated by the intersection of politics, power, and morality, this book is an absolute gem. The way Whiting digs into the lives of characters resonates deeply with my own interest in Japan's hidden influencers. It's these untold stories of people who live on the margins, but exert enormous influence that truly shape a country's identity. Whiting captures this theme brilliantly, driving the reader into a world where the stakes are high, the moves are bold, and the consequences are often game-changing. The book doesn't glorify these figures, but does argue that their roles were essential to Japan's development, shedding light on a darker side of history that is often overlooked. Okay. In Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, the outsiders who shaped modern Japan, Whiting presents a variety of compelling stories from Japan's post-war underworld. Three of the most fascinating for me are: 1, this is the photo coming up that I put up there, the Cannon spy agency. After World War II, Japan was a battleground for influence between the Allies and the Soviet Union. Whiting delves into the Cannon Agency, a Black Ops spy network created by U.S. Army Major Jack Cannon. Pictured there. Cannon, a towering Texan with a background in explosives. He even had the patent for the Glazer slug. And ironically, it was also, I think, a Glazer slug that he used to ultimately either kill himself or it was an accident. Anyways, Cannon, a towering Texan with a background in explosives, was tasked with covert operations aimed at rooting out communist sympathizers and Soviet spies. His agency was involved in sabotage, drug smuggling, and even kidnapping double agents like Wataru Kaji, all in the name of keeping Japan under American influence. Cannon recruited a diverse group of Euro-American Nisei, which is a term for second-generation Japanese, and Korean-American agents, setting new standards for post-war covert operations. So this is kind of a DEI policy that I can kind of get behind, you know? It's kind of results-focused. Anyways, here you see Jack Cannon in Japan. Oh, he's also an interesting guy. He liked to test his recruits by pulling out a pistol and shooting it right, you know, right by their ear. He wanted to see one's reaction, you know. Would they flinch? Would they freak out, wet their pants, shit their pants? There's a lot there, too. His native tongue wasn't English, it was German. So that really made a lot of sense. Like, right as soon as he entered Tokyo, he went straight for the German embassy. He used an explosive. Remember, he's an explosives expert, to blow open the safe. And there he found the documents for the Richard Sorge communist spy ring. Sorge was a double agent, and he was found and executed by the Japanese before the end of the war. But what Cannon was convinced by was there was more there. There was a communist conspiracy. So that was one of many things he did. Okay, let's go for the number two. The number two is the Girard incident. Now, I think I covered this briefly in one of my previous videos of a Robert Whiting article. Anyways, this details the killing of a 46-year-old Japanese woman. Let me see if I can get that photo. I'm not sure if that's it. Probably it's not. Sorry, this is not the victim. The killing of a 46-year-old Japanese woman, Naka Sakai, by a U.S. Army soldier, William S. Girard, in Soma, Gunma Prefecture on July 30th, 1957. Okay, that's 66 years ago, eh? Sakai, a housewife who was collecting spent shell casings at a military base to sell for scrap, was killed when Girard shot an empty grenade cartridge at her, apparently for his own amusement. Sakai's death caused outrage from the Japanese public, and the incident led to disputes between Japan and the U.S. Army over jurisdiction, resulting in the U.S. Supreme Court case Wilson versus Girard. Girard was demoted by the U.S. Army and received a 3-year suspended sentence from Japanese authorities, and led to a reduction in U.S. troops based in Japan. And so this is a photo of Girard and his girlfriend, Cindy. Okay. Number 3. Oh, yes. The Korean taxi barons. Not tax barons, taxi barons. Whiting profiles the rise of the Aoki family. Okay. What is here? Oh, wow. Yes. They were ethnic Koreans who overcame discrimination to build MK Taxi, one of Japan's largest taxi firms. Sadao Aoki, the family patriarch, battled both Japanese taxi competitors and government regulators, who were reluctant to see an ethnic Korean succeed. His son, Masaaki Aoki, despite facing racism in both Japan and the US, eventually took over the business, leading it to new heights, including introducing revolutionary practices like late-night taxi services. The downfall of Masaaki makes for cliff-hanging reading. And so this is a photo of the MK Taxi services. Kind of what's interesting is they started out in Kyoto, and they were known for like exemplary service. They didn't have, and they still to this day don't have automatic doors. So what the drivers are trying to do is they run out to the passenger side, so around the car, and open the door for you and close it. So it was interesting when they entered entered Tokyo, they went in at a reduced rate, because you had basically this not a monopoly, what do you call it, a glyply or whatever, of taxi companies, and they had kind of fixed their prices higher. So he had really made them angry, including the regulators, by lowering taxi prices. And I recall the other week when Bob was talking about this, he said there was a government bureaucrat, probably in Kokosho, Ministry of Infrastructure, Land, Transportation, and Tourism, who yelled at Aoki, the senior Aoki, I guess, how dare you, and was really upset. However, the guy didn't flinch. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And apparently, I guess the judge ruled in favor of Aoki. He goes, look, I'd like to see lower taxi prices too. What's wrong with that? So that was kind of an unexpected win across the board. Anyways, in Gamblers, Fraudsters, Dreamers, and Spies, let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'll give you this instead. The Outsiders Who Shaped Modern Japan. It's a must-read for anyone intrigued by Japan's modern history, especially those curious about the unsung individuals who played critical roles in its rise as a global power. Whiting invites us to consider a more complex and nuanced version of history where outsiders and misfits have just as much, if not more, influence as the celebrated figures we read about in textbooks. You won't be disappointed by the tales of ambition, risk, and rebellion that shaped the Japan we know today. So, end of the article. But let's have, there's a little blurb at the bottom, and we can read that. Rionne McAvoy is the director of the award-winning documentary. Let me get a picture of him so you can focus on his abs while I read this. Yeah. The Ones Left Behind, the Plight of Single Mothers in Japan, showcasing his dedication to addressing pressing social issues. He's a committed documentary filmmaker and professional wrestler. He explores critical themes with passion and insight. That is true. Additionally, he has a keen interest in post-World War II Japan, particularly the intricate connections between politicians and gangsters during that era. That's also true. Known in the wrestling ring as Rionne Fujiwara, he brings the same determination and storytelling prowess from his wrestling persona to his filmmaking endeavors. Yes. And just so that what I want to show you is you really do want to take a look at him, at Rionne's thing. So he's written quite a bit. You can have a look. Here's his archive. His latest article is Japan's Jewelry King and Master Political Fixer, The Dual Legacy of Takayoshi Otani. He's written also, there's a guest post on the documentary that he produced. But he has a couple of other stories. The Night, I Stole a Ship Captain's Hat, a Tokyo Bay booze cruise adventure. And, of course, this is a great topic, the Yakuza in post-war Japan, an intricate dance between crime, politics, and power. And this is also great. This is former Prime Minister, and he was most recently Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso, or Aso Taro as we know him. The rise of a power broker in the LDP, and his similarities to ultra-nationalist right-wing fixer and gangster Yoshio Kodama. He does look like a gangster. He was also in the 1976 Montreal Olympics, where he placed 41st in pistol shooting or skeet shooting. So there's a lot there. Actually, this is a really interesting one. I'm going to take a look at that one. So there you go. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I will also put links to the book. You can get it both on Kindle, and you can get the copy from the paperback, I think hardcover too, from Amazon. That is all. I hope you enjoyed this. So definitely, please give both Bob Whiting's Substack a look, and also take a look at Rionne McAvoy's Substack. He actually puts out a considerable volume of articles. I think at least one every week, if not two, and they're pretty interesting. So if you have a little bit of interest in Japan, little bit of interest in politics, and a lot of interest in criminal activity, I think that's a great place to get started. Anyways, have a really, really, really good weekend, and I may see you later tonight on Meme Copium's drinking stream.